Oh my god, I think we're live. We are good. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I see the folks. Let me know if we're doing good, if we're doing live, or if we're live. I think we are. Let me know if you can hear me all right. You know, all the good stuff, all the good technical things. Welcome to the panel. Welcome to the Art Imitates Game panel. Great to see everybody in here. I need to make a couple quick adjustments. I hope that's cool. Redox, hello. Miss Hun, welcome. Okay, awesome. Yeah, just let me know if it sounds okay and it looks okay for you guys too. Miss Hun Goraya, how's it going? Redox, great to see you. C Small, how are you? Good sound bounce? Okay, awesome. Anthony, welcome. Welcome so much, guys. Here we go. This is it. I can't tell you how comforting it is to see some familiar faces here. I'm excited to do this. Good luck. Thank you so much. I was gonna do the thing that the pros do and say, say hello and where you're coming from in the world. You don't have to if you don't want, but I'm coming from New York. You can just, if you don't want to, that's fine. I don't need your phone number. I don't need your social security number. But it might be fun just to see where you guys are at coming in around the world. Hope you guys are having a good time at the convention. If you've seen some other panels, I know it's been going on since early this morning, I think, and it's going all day. So I do appreciate you coming by to my panel. It means a lot. So yeah, I'm in New York. It's a cold winter day. It's a little bit sunny, a little bit overcast, but it is winter. So what are you gonna do? So first and foremost, guys, intros. Gomen-sama, yes. Okay, well, I saw the Gomen-sama name before, and then Anthony. Okay, good to see you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi, I'm Redox. I'm from PDX. Wonderful. I hope the snow is not killing you guys too much. I hope it's still there and it's nice and pretty for you, but not curtailing your outside activities like it is here sometimes. Long-time listener, first-time caller. That's very nice. Very nice. Thank you. Southeastern Connecticut. Nathaniel, my home state. Very nice. Nice to see you. It's great to see someone representing my childhood because we're going to be talking about that. We're not going to go the psychological route, thankfully, but we're going to go into childhood stuff. Snow is all gone. Well, you get all that rain, so it probably washed it all away, right? Sad. That's too bad. Okay, guys, well, let's do a quick intro thing. This is how we're going to start it out. Most of you know me as from my channels on YouTube and the channels on Twitch, of course, as The Renaissance. If you don't know me, you can call me Ren. That's fine. That's what usually people call me. And I have been on Twitch for about 2.5 years now, streaming mostly gaming stuff. That's basically what I do throughout the week. But while I am a game lover and a game player and a game enthusiast, that's not why I'm here today. I'm here to talk about my art because I'm an artist and a painter. And over the past 3 years or so, I've been creating landscapes based on and inspired by game settings and scenery, the games that I love, the games that you love, the games that we hate, any game that we want. And perhaps you've seen my work online, on social media, maybe on Instagram or Twitter. Maybe you've been to my website down below. You can check it out, GameScapeArtist.com. I'd love for you to go check out my work, but just not yet. Please, not yet. We're doing a panel here. I want you to be here for me for this time. Maybe you can go over tomorrow, check it out. But that is the breadth of work that we're going to be talking about today. And hey, Richard Rose, how you doing? Sweden! Wow, so cool. I wish I knew how to say hello in Sweden, but how are you doing? Ontario, Canada, you don't say. Oh, Canada. I've got some tea I'm going to be having to sip on quite a bit. I hope you guys do too. Cheers. Because if you've been in my streams, you probably know my voice tends to crap out after a little while. So I have my emergency Ricola here. So hopefully we're not going to need it, but it could be possible by the end of this thing. Because I kind of sound like a gravelly dump truck at the end of my streams. But we'll try to keep it up. Ottawa, another Ottawan, another Canadian. Hello, Christian. Nice to see you. We can go check out your work in the Winter Hall. That's another point I wanted to make. Thank you. I put a little thing here. If you want to check out the works, I have prints up for sale right here in the convention, in the vendor hall. And I'd love to throw like traffic their way because the organizers have done an amazing job with this. So yeah, you can do that today, and that would be wonderful. But we'll talk more about that later. So I broke down the panel here into several little chapters for you guys, so you guys know what you're getting yourselves into, and I know what I'm getting myself into. So let me break that down for you real quick. Phil Summers, what is up, man? Great to see you. You guys want to check out an awesome... You have a panel coming up a little bit later, right, Phil? This guy is awesome. He makes these homemade manuals for the games. He's done one for Ninja Gaiden and for Zelda. Super cool and very nice guy. Phil, good to see you, man. Thank you so much for stopping by. Okay, so let's break it down. This is what we're going to be talking about today, because this is what the pro teachers do, right? We're going to start with my background, childhood, because I didn't paint as a kid, but I did many other things artistically. So we're going to talk about that for a little bit. We'll talk about then how it kind of flowed into how I actually started painting. And then after that, how it flowed into the actual gamescapes, as I've been calling them. It's like the landscape style gaming paintings. After that, we're going to talk about just some early examples of my work, where my head was at, what the goal was, what the vision was, what I was trying to do. We'll touch a little bit on how I wanted to kind of curtail it into a business, commissions, prints, that kind of thing. After that, we'll talk about the actual process that I go through to create a piece, physically what I do, the materials that I use, all that kind of thing. And then after that, we're going to do a quick kind of skim through a gallery of my completed Gamescape pieces. I've included all of them except the ones that I'll have already gone through during the earlier in the panel, so there's not any overlap there. And then at the end, we'll do a Q&A. So this is what I wanted to say. I am keeping a track on the chat pretty well. And I'm used to streaming, which I have more of an interaction with you guys, but it might be difficult today because I'm just trying to stick with my plan. So don't feel neglected if I don't see your comment or anything like that. But if there is a question you want to ask me or a comment that you want me to see, you should have a Q&A button on your end. Just go in there, plunk it in there, and that's how we'll wrap up the panel by doing a little Q&A session. Sound good? Does it sound good? I think that sounds great. Let me take some tea. Cheers. I'll try to stave off the Ricola as long as I can. Let me check one thing real here. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So, without further ado, I say we get going. I bought the Zelda one. So, oh, sweet. Great seeing you. Look forward to your talk. We had ours. Oh, you already had it. Okay. I hope it went great, man. Yeah, his manuals are super cool, guys. If you want to check out something really cool, Phil Summers. I think he's Hey Phil Summers on Twitter, maybe, if I'm right, or if I'm wrong, but definitely check him out. Very, very cool guy. Excuse me. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Background, childhood stuff, and we do have visual aids, my friends, so I hope you're ready for that. As I said just a minute ago, I didn't paint when I was a kid, but I drew a lot. Drawing was a huge part of my life. I was drawn to it, no pun intended, from an early age, and if my parents were here, they would certainly have several stories about walking in on me, destroying the wallpaper, destroying the walls because I was drawing with my crayons. And are you ready for the first visual aid? There I am. Oh my god. Drawing stuff. And the whole story used to go, they could never really punish me because I would be so happy and proud about what I did that they just didn't have it in them to punish me. So that kind of was the sign very early on that it really gave me a lot of happiness to illustrate stuff, and especially with colors. I remember my crayons, the whole huge crayon box that I had, and I loved the different hues of the different colors, the different blues, the different oranges, and the names I remember, like salmon and sienna and indigo and all this. It just really kind of struck a chord with me when I was really, really little, and that stuck with me for a long time through childhood. Through school, all of my notebooks were always littered. The margins were always totally littered with doodles, with characters, shaded objects I would always be doing. I remember one I made like a baseball and I shaded it. I wish I could have found some of my old notebooks. They're long gone. I could have shown you some more visual aids from that, but they're long gone. But littered, literally littered. And many Christmases I would get sketchbooks for presents. Wouldn't take long before they were totally filled up with pencil sketches of actual like landscapey kind of things, mountains and full moons. And I remember specifically even architectural things, big towers, kind of foreign looking towers, probably inspired by reading Stephen King's The Dark Tower, maybe. That could have totally been it, but needless to say, it was a big part of when I was growing up, and it was a huge outlet for me when I was a kid. And that went on for many, many years, until high school, pretty much, when music kind of started to come into the scene. I became extremely obsessed with the drums in particular, but I was also learning to play the guitar as well. And there was some overlap for a little while. I recall specifically many sketches in my notebooks of these gigantic drum sets that I would draw with shading, and these huge, like 12, 14 piece with toms and cymbals, got like a cage. So there was some overlap of this interest, but it didn't take too long before drawing and illustration kind of took a backseat, and music was the thing that sort of brought me through many, many years after that. So that kind of sets it up. That's my background. That's my childhood. Tea time, everyone. I'm already losing my voice. No Ricola. Let's reject the Ricola still. Supportive parents. They were supportive. They were. I actually do remember one story. Particularly, we were in our van driving somewhere. I have two sisters, so it was all five of us in the van, and I drew a Christmas tree on the window in an orange crayon. And of course, I was a little kid, so I remember it was like a vertical line and then like, horizontal lines just getting bigger and bigger. That I got in trouble for. I think I got spanked on that time, but generally, yes, very supportive. It was great. So let me come back here. Let's get rid of me. So yeah, that stemmed through high school. And now we're going to fast forward all the way to 2016, actually, because this is kind of the moment where I started to get into other things. I was in a band. The band was called Sun Hollow Sun. It's this really nice four-piece acoustic pianos, even slide guitar, a little country-ish, stand-up bass, a lot of harmonies in the vocals, really nice. And we were working on an EP. We were just finishing an EP. The EP was called Before We Ever Met. Very kind of romantic, very nice. I was playing drums, and we were discussing the art, because we were going to do a physical release, so we wanted to put out a CD. So we were talking about the art and just kind of throwing ideas around. And I honestly don't remember if I had colored pencils in the house or if I went out and got them. I don't remember doing this really, but I came up with an idea and I wanted to make it. And here's our next visual here. This is what I made for it, and I actually have it kind of framed in my place. And this was the first time in years that I really drew something. And it was such a nice kind of re-sparking of that inside of me. It really kind of brought me back to my childhood. And when I drew it, especially the tree, I was like, God, I miss this. Like, I remember doing this quite a lot. Why don't I do this more, We didn't end up using this visual, which is good because the one we used was way more professional. But again, it was a nice little spark of something illustrative in my life. And right around the same time, maybe a month or two later, I was sitting right here in this very chair, folks, looking up at this wall. There's a wall behind you, as I'm sure you might imagine. And it was always blank. I had just never put anything up there, any sort of wall art or anything like that. And it used to just drive me nuts. So finally one day I was like, okay, I got to get something to put up there. And I always was fond of these pieces where it's a multi-canvassed piece. You have 3 or 4 or 5 canvases, but they're all showing the same image, right? So lazily, I kind of just went on to like Amazon, and I was like, oh, we'll look for some wall art. And I scrolled through them, and I did find a scene that I really liked. It was like this wintry, autumnal sort of scene, and I was like, that's really nice. I'm going to get that one. So I clicked on it, and it's crazy to think about now that, excuse me, I was about to buy it, and I was like, well, let me look at the reviews, which is such a silly thing, I guess, but let me look at the reviews for it. And all the reviews were just like, this is really cheaply made, it's chintzy, it's crap, it falls apart, whatever. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to buy that. And almost instantly, I was like, well, why don't I just try to make it myself? Like, that would be a fun project. I'm always up for learning new kind of creative things. So I thought this might be fun. Let's try to give this a shot. So that's what I did. I went out to Michael's, and Michael's, if you don't know, is just a sort of art store. It's a chain here in the US. It's not super high-end or anything like that, but, it gives you your arts and crafts stuff. So I went out and I bought a pack of 4 1 by 2 foot canvases, and I got some paint, And I brought it home and I just got to work. And I used the same image because that's the one that I liked. So here's, I looked for the actual Amazon ad. I couldn't find it for you guys, unfortunately. But this is what I made, and it is basically the same scene. So it's a very special piece. I still have it hanging up on the wall, and I would turn the camera around, but I'm not going to do that. It's fine. I took the picture so you can see. So it's a really special piece because, one, it reminds me of the impetus that brought painting into my life. And it's crazy to really think about now. Had I not just read those reviews, maybe I wouldn't have started painting. And now 5 years I'm giving a panel on my painting. So it's really a crazy thing. And I like to look at it every day and just kind of think about that as that marker of how it started, you know. The other thing is, I think it's neat because when I look at it, I'm kind of a perfectionist like most artists are. I look at it and I just see mistakes, but it's kind of a sweet thing at the same time because it shows me kind of like a starter of the learning process that I've gone through over the past years. Because I look at it and I say I would never do that now. I know how to do that now, but it's kind of a neat little it's like the birth of the learning process, which is kind of a neat thing, I think. So I was kind of in love. Like, I started it, I threw myself into it. I was watching different artists on YouTube, trying to learn. I learned by observation mostly, so I was learning a little more and just getting into it. But once I was done with it, I was bitten. I was totally bitten. I couldn't wait to start trying more, and I did. So I started. I made maybe 3 or 4 or 5 more kind of landscapey pieces. They were okay, you know. I was making small improvements, learning more and more. Nothing special. But I got to a point pretty soon where I kind of ran out of inspiration of what to paint exactly. I really didn't know what to paint next. And I don't know if I was playing the game, and I don't know if I was just thinking about the game. But again, if you know my streams, if you know anything about me, you know I love the game Legacy of the Wizard. If you look, this is kind of silly, but if you look behind me, this thing, I made this gigantic... If I can, all right, I'll move the camera a little bit. You can see this ridiculously large piece that I made of the entire thing, all from graph paper and marker. So, needless to say, yeah, I love the game. And a huge part of why I love the game is the setting, is the environment. I guess when I was a kid, I really loved to lose myself in that idea of what would this really look like in my real life, because I grew up in a very small town in the woods and in you know, ponds and lakes and things like that. So when I played those games as a kid, it was there was a connection there to my actual environment, and it made it more like of a personal connection. So I was just thinking about the game. If you know the game, you play as a family. It's a sort of like a cooperative item sharing sort of game. It's super cool. But you walk out of the family house and you walk through this beautiful little lane, and you've got these houses. I'm sorry, you got the trees and you got a little, like a store up in the tree. The blue sky and the white puffy clouds, it's just like lovely. And then you walk down and you have this huge castle in the background, like as just a backdrop, just to show you like this is where this whole story takes place. And I always loved that. So at this time I was thinking, well, this was like the aha moment. I was like, what if I just try to paint these landscapes like I'm doing, like I'm learning, but do it with this game's environment instead. So that was just the moment where I was like, that could be really fun. That could be really interesting. So, goodbye 4-piece. So this is the one that I made. This again is like another special piece because this is legit the first GameScape that I ever made. So again, I could nitpick it. Yeah, the clouds are a disaster. They're you know, the colors are off, but it doesn't matter because I was just learning. But really it's important to me because this was the first spark of, hey, this idea might be interesting to investigate and to kind of dive into. And really, it was very exciting because I was like, speaking of not knowing what to paint or what to be inspired by, I mean, how many games are there, right? The source material for this sort of idea is immense. Like, you'll never be able to get through that in your entire life. So that was exciting too. So instantly I just started thinking about all the games and the cool atmospheres that I could possibly do this with. I see some Leg of the Wizard right there. I want to take a quick tea sip here. Well, red, I'm always going to do that. That's just the nature of it. But thank you. So I did that one, and it was really the piece where it was like the moment where I was excited to cross two things that I was loving and that I had loved, the environments and the settings of these games. And really, it could be anything. It could be a book or a movie, or I always love thinking about the overall setting of a story, because really that's what helps make it more immersive for you. You want to feel like you're seeing the whole world, right? And mixing that with this new love of painting that I had just discovered. So it was a very exciting time. So the next one, again, if you know me, and I know at least a few of you in the chat will agree with me here, another game that I loved was Xanadu. So I knew right away, I was like, that's the next one I'm doing, because this legit has possibly the most perfectly composed shot of an entry, like a title shot of a game. You've got your nameless warrior walking toward this beautiful flow of a path, going toward this huge, fantastic fantasy giant tree. And of course the tree tied back to my childhood and my nature too. So I knew that's the one I wanted to do next. And I thought it would be fun, because I'm sure some of you have already seen the final piece. I thought it would be fun to show you this early shot of the Xanadu painting. So you can just see I've put the sky in, I've put the idea of the clouds in, and the idea of the tree, and that's it. And the bottom's not even painted in yet. You can just see sort of the sketch of where the path is going to be. And I kind of made like an amateur mistake when I did this, because I was like, this scene is amazing. I want a huge canvas. I got a 24-inch by 30-inch canvas. And when you're just starting out, that can be really overwhelming. I probably should have started smaller. Because in all honesty, it took me a long time to like finish this piece, and I air quote that because I still want to take it off the wall and add touches to it, and I probably still will, but I would work on it, put it aside, work on other things, then bring it back. It was that sort of thing. But at the same time, I wouldn't want it any smaller, because the scene is very grandiose or epic or whatever you want to call it. So I love that it's this big now, but it took me a while to get through it. So this then, at this point, I was doing games that I wanted to do, or painting games that I wanted to do. I hadn't really started thinking about a business or anything like that, or would people be interested in this. I don't even think I was on Twitter yet. I think I was on Instagram, but I wasn't even thinking in that way. I was really just super psyched to be trying out this new sort of avenue of creation and expression, right? So, but then I kind of did start thinking about it. Would people be interested in maybe having me commission these sorts of pieces? I mean, that was really exciting, like to be able to make a business and make some money out of doing something this fun. Because I knew I had been streaming already, so I knew the gaming community was huge and very passionate. So the next few pieces I made were sort of a nod to that, going in that direction. And I'll show you these now. So we've got the Castlevania piece and the Ninja Gaiden piece. So at this point, I wanted to start making some pieces that were of scenes that were iconic, very recognizable, very well known in the gaming community. This piece is hanging above my tea right now. Great to see the Genesis. Awesome. Yeah, Hungry has that one too. So cool. So I wanted to appeal to a bit of a wider audience. I wanted to be like, Castlevania, Ninja Gaiden, of course, but do it in a realistic style. But these are essentially like screenshots painted, which wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, and I'll get into that more in a minute. But I knew I wanted to do something a little bit different. But to appeal and to kind of drum up some interest, I knew I kind of had to do this. So I made the Castlevania and the Ninja Gaiden, and you'll notice in both of these pieces there are no characters. A lot of people were like, "Where's Ryu?" and what about Simon? I don't typically use characters for a couple reasons. One, I find that if you're like, it's cool if you're gonna make the scene and put Ryu in there. It's cool. It's a total nod to the game. It's a super cool scene. But for me, if I'm gonna look at that and I see Ryu there, I'm gonna feel like a voyeur into that scene. I prefer to not have him there so that the viewer can feel more immersed in that scene. If there's no character there, it's almost like you can identify with it more, like you're actually the character in it, And there's just more of a connection there, I feel. Same thing with Simon. There's no Simon looking up at the castle through the gate. You're looking through the gate, looking at the castle. So from the beginning, that was never really something that interested me to put the characters in. And plus, there are a million people doing something like that anyway. And to come back to the idea of the character, you know, if someone comes to me and says, hey, can you paint me Luigi falling out of a window, turning around, throwing a fireball at Kraid or something, I'm not your guy. It's not something that totally excites me either. I'm far more drawn to sort of the imperfect perfection of nature, of how you make a tree, how much more loose it is generally. I mean, there are kind of rules you have to follow a little bit, but it's nothing like, you know, drawing an arm of a character. It's just nothing that really excited me as much. I'm far more interested in the environment. And again, yeah, I just haven't spent the time to learn that discipline so well. Maybe someday I will. I don't know. Maybe someday it'll be more of something that I'm interested in. But for now, I really just want to focus on you feeling part of the world. So, as I said a moment ago, these are basically screenshots, right? But I knew that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. What I really wanted to do was reimagine things. I wanted to make the painting way more subtle and not be so obvious, not just be so in your face. So this next example is really the first piece I feel I achieved that with. And this is, I think, the first piece I did on a stream when I started streaming my painting sessions. So this is from Myland's Secret Castle. It's another NES game. It's another game I love. It's a game that people make fun of me for loving, but it's a great game. So even if you know this game, you might look at this and just not really get it at first. You see a well, and the castle's sort of off in the background. So you go down into a well in this game, right? Which I love, because it's Myland's Secret Castle. So the castle is the obvious location of where all the action is going to take place, right? But I love that you go down into this well, because wells typically are just wells. There aren't fire pits down there with a whole different area that you have to explore. So I just love that about the game. So it wasn't very hard to decide that, okay, I want to make the well the focal point of this scene. And of course you got the music box in there. That's just a little element from the game. It's an item that you see. But the castle, you'll notice, is sort of, it's almost like an afterthought. It's just kind of in the background. You need it to kind of establish the environment where you are. But I think it's cooler to make it way more subtle and not have, like, I could paint the castle like this, but that's not fun. I think it's more fun to have the person, the viewer, use a bit of their imagination and put it together themselves. The lightning bolt, if you play the game again, if you loiter too long outside of the castle walls, these little lightning bolts come and attack you. And so I thought, well, that would be a kind of a neat idea of like the coming storm. It's not there yet. You see the blue sky, but it's coming for you. And some people might say that's really kind of crazy overkill, but for me, it's like, why not? Like, why not? That like frees you up to explore these worlds in a totally new way, even if that's not what the developers were really aiming to do. It's just way more fun, and why not? Like, the best reaction I feel like I can get, like when I've done 2 other conventions in person before the world died, and the best reaction I ever feel like I can get is someone that looks at the piece and they kind of dig it for what it is. They just think it's a painting, and then very slowly they'll be like, isn't that looks like the music box from that game, and what is that game, and oh, there's lightning, and it's, oh, okay, and then it all kind of comes together like, oh, I see what you're doing. You're kind of just nodding to it very subtly. That's the best reaction I can get. And there's another example I'll show you of the same idea, and then we'll move on to the next section. Let me take some tea. J-Love, what is going on? How are you? Cheers. Did you have your panel yet, or are you yet to go? It's good to see you. Thank you. So this is Super Mario Bros. 2. From the very beginning of when I started doing these paintings, I knew the idea of subcon from this game, I had to do something with it, because I always wanted to see if I could explore the idea of showing both the real world and the subcomment. If you don't know Mario 2, and Jay Love, you're here just in time for one of our favorite games. It's such a trippy game. It's so fun, but it's a little drugged out and weird, which makes it so cool. You basically pick, like a root out of the ground. Sometimes it's a potion. You throw the potion on the ground, it makes a door. You go through the door, and it like flips the scene. It's almost like it's a negative of what you saw before. Excuse me. Almost like a negative, yeah. So if there was a tree on this side, you go through the door, the tree's going to be over here now. And it also looks like kind of a nighttime sort of thing. So I always had the idea of like, I want to show both things, and maybe show the subcon as almost like a portal into another dimension or something. So that's what we did. So if you look at this and you don't know, you might think, well, it's this weird kind of trippy, Egyptian desert scene or something like this with palm trees and some red vegetation. But then, of course, they're going to see the door and the mushroom. I mean, you have to have the mushroom, right? But again, this is just the little silent... There's no place... This isn't a screenshot. There's no place in the game where it looks exactly like this. That's what I love to do. I just wanted to explore that. And I made it the desert level because, frankly, being a landscape painter, you kind of get not tired of grass, but you paint a lot of grass. So I wanted to stretch the horizon a little bit and try sand for a bit. And I think it worked out pretty cool. So there you go. More tea. Let's take a tea break. That is going to conclude this section. And just to speak quickly about the business stuff of it, let me drink. Cheers. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Hope you're enjoying. So at this point, I was on Twitter and I was on Instagram already. And already, like, I put the Castlevania posts out and the Ninja Gaiden. Super Mario 2 was just a good example for this. This game, we just did this on stream, like, this past year, I think. But I had already started, I opened an Etsy shop and I got the website going. So now it was like, okay, I want to see if I can explore this and see if I can make some business doing it. And truth be told, at this point, I had already, I think, gotten maybe 1 or 2 commissions in already. But we'll get to that later. When we go through the gallery, I'll show you the beginning commissions and stuff like that. So business-wise, it was kind of starting to roll, and it was exciting. I hadn't started the prints yet. This was also another naivete of mine. I thought maybe I could just sell the original paintings. But that's hard to keep up with because it's a lot of work, and some people are not looking to spend that much. They just want to do a little something less. I don't remember who it was, but someone early on suggested I do prints. And at first I was like, I don't even know how to make prints. Like, I don't really want to do that. It seems like too much work and not enough, income or it's not going to pay off. The investment's not going to pay off. But I'm glad that I did because prints have actually been amazing. They've been like the most stable thing to get the business going. And it's great for people too because if they're on a budget, they don't want to pay for an original, but they still want to have some of my art in their game room or in their house. It's great. They can still frame it. I know some of you guys have it, so I'm really glad that I came around on that and started doing the prints as well. Okay. Goodbye, Mario 2. Let's come back over here. So, where are we? Oh, yes. Okay, so our next section, we're going to talk about actually the most technical aspect of this whole thing is how I physically make these paintings. I'm going to bring you through a quick, rundown of what I do. So there are a lot of different ways that you can create art and paintings, of course. A lot of different surfaces that you can use, different paints, of course, different materials. I typically use canvases, but I do use wood panels as well, which I like a lot. They're sturdier. Obviously, there's a different feel. There's a lot less give than a canvas. But when I do a commission, I'll give the option, would you like a wood panel or a canvas? It's safer to send through the mail and stuff like that. It's sturdier. But just for today, for the purposes of today, we'll stick with just canvas because that's what I typically do. And there is a course in my piano area. I love it, Redox, yeah. I don't want to sound too patting myself on the back, but I really love when I get to see people's pictures of my prints or my pieces, in their houses. It's really special. It's like, that's the whole connection thing. Like, that's why I wanted to start doing these, because it's like, the community is so great. And again, it's just like anything, video games or movies or books or whatever it is. if you can kind of share that that love of those things, and then they give back to me by giving me business and having the art up in their house. It's really cool. It's very, very special. So anyway, canvases. First thing I do with the canvas, actually the very first thing I do is you got to open up the canvas, take the plastic off, and you have to smell the back of it, because if you haven't done this, that smell of like the wood is so good. It's wonderful. My dad is a woodworker, like as a hobbyist, but our basement, he always had like a woodworking little section, and it just always smelled like sawdust. And if you guys have ever experienced that, there's something really like innately comforting about that. So every time I open the canvas, I have to smell the back of it. It's great. But whatever. So the real first thing I do is I put 2 coats of gesso onto the canvas. So what gesso is just a light acrylic paint, and you just cover it. I put a fan on it, let it dry maybe 15-20 minutes, and then put another coat. I used to put 3 coats. It's not really necessary. 2 seems to be fine. And a couple reasons for this. One, it primes the canvas, which is to say it prepares it to accept the paint a little bit better. If you don't put the gesso, you paint right onto it, it can tend to soak a little bit too much into the canvas, and it can deaden the colors so they're not so vibrant. So just putting the gesso down will help retain those colors, which is obviously a good thing. It's funny, when I look at this piece we mentioned before, the 4-piece thing, I didn't gesso that because I didn't know what I was doing. And I can see now the sort of textures of the canvas coming through. So those colors are starting to fade a little bit. But again, it's one more reminder of what I didn't know what I was doing and what I've learned. So that's it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is it creates a bit of a smoother surface to paint on. So if you look at a canvas really close, you can see it's a little like porous. It has texture to it. When you put a smoother coat of paint over it, let's say for example you're going to paint there's a liner brush, it's called, or a rigger brush. It's a small brush, it's a detail brush, it's got like bristles about that long. It's great for making like tree limbs or straight lines. So if you're trying to draw a straight line with it, and if you don't have that smooth surface, the texture of the canvas can tend to kind of pull the paint one way or the other. And I don't want that. Some people might like it, but I want to have more control over the stroke. So that's the other thing it does for me. So that's what I like. The second part, or the next step I should say, is to tint the canvas. So, and I have an example of this. Go over to the pics. You tint the canvas. And here's the Ghosts and Goblins piece that we did. So you can see the canvas. That's just a normal white canvas, but you want like a warm color. The reason for this is it's easier to judge colors if you've got like a more mid-rangey warm color, as opposed to the stark white of a canvas that you haven't done this. Pine art. What's up, Chris? How you doing? It kind of throws off like your rods and your cones or something, right? If you have like a really stark white, it kind of makes the colors jump a little bit. You want to just sort of regulate that a little bit. So I'll tint it that way to help my eyes do that. And I usually go with this burnt sienna and white mixture, which is that color that you see there. This one has a sketch as well. We'll get to that in a second. But I don't always use that color, because the other thing it can do is it can actually create like a warmth that comes through even the layers that you put over it, which is great if you're doing, an autumnal scene with those if you're in that range of colors. It's great for like sunsets or things like that. But sometimes you don't want that. You still want to tint it, but you want to choose another color. So let me show you this next idea. I just recently completed this piece from Sword of Vermilion, which I think is a Master System game. I always forget if it's Master System or Genesis. I think it's Master System. Hungry, I'm sure you would know. So I tinted this with blue, and in truth, I could have gone a little more blue on this. It's almost still a little white, but it worked out okay. Again, this has the sketch on it, but I tinted it blue for the reason that, I will show you next to it, the finished shot. You can see that if you don't want like a warm, this scene is very stark. It's more gray, it's a little more drab, it's a little more blue. I don't want that orange to come through and glow through and make it look happy. You know what I mean? This isn't a very happy. It doesn't look to me like a very happy scene. So that's the idea behind that. So you're always going to tint it. I'm always going to tint it, but it might be different colors based on what the sort of family of colors are going to be in the shot. And I have to take a real quick second and show you this too, because this was a recent commission and I just sent it to the guy and he framed it. Check out this frame that he put it in. Is that not dope? It's a Genesis game? I could have sworn it was a Master System game. Okay, well, it's a Genesis game. What do I know? Sega. Who knows? Cheers. I just love this frame. It's really cool. I don't know where he got this frame, but it's super dope. Okay. So, tinting. So that's basically the ideas behind tinting. The next idea, or the next step really, as you've already kind of seen, just like in this one, is the sketch. So I'll just use straight burnt sienna like in this example and sketch the scene basically where I want things to go. But before I do it on the canvas, I actually do it on paper. So every time I do any shot, and especially a commission, I'll make like a quick 4x3 inch sketch just on paper, just to show them this is basically what it's going to look like. This is basically where things are going to go. And at that point, we can kind of go back and forth. If they have an idea like, hey, can that tree be on the other side, or whatever they want to do, that's fine. And I'm going to give you guys a little sneak peek here, because I haven't started this commission yet, but I did do the pencil sketch, and it's this. So basically just like crossing where my center is, and we'll get into that kind of stuff in a bit. But the keyword here is Zelda. Maybe you have already seen that, but this is the first step. Send it to the customer. How does this look? And from here, once it's good and agreed upon, then you can transpose it to the canvas. Okay, so I have examples of this whole process here, and including the next step, which is the block in. So I did a Breath of the Wild piece back in the summer, which I can't believe it's already that long ago, but and these are a little small. I hope you can see these all right. But here's the pencil sketch of the fairy. The customer wanted the fairy fountain from Breath of the Wild. So here's the pencil sketch. Again, how does this look? Yeah, we'll get to this later, but I had to move things a little bit around to make it more compositionally pleasing to the eye, I guess you'd say. Link to the past, maybe. And then the next one, so we bring it to actually transposing that sketch onto the canvas. I have no idea why I used a pencil on this one, and I'm sorry. I know it's a little hard to see this one. I usually do it with the burnt sienna paint, but you can generally see where those items are on the actual canvas. That's a 16 by 20 canvas. You can see the kind of ridge up there in the top right-hand corner where those mountains are going to be. And this brings us to the next step, which is the block-in stage, which essentially, this is the same shot. All you're going to do now is just fill in the entire canvas with color, generally the right color. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to go over it again, but this is basically all about building a map. You just want to build a map, know where the things are, be confident that they're in the right place, and then you can go forward and start to really work on it, because the next step after this is detailing, and that's the thing that takes the longest time. This doesn't take long at all. I mean, you can sketch, you can prep the canvas, you can do this all in 2 hours, no big deal. But now to take it and really start detailing it, that's the thing that takes a lot of time. So once you have it blocked in, section by section, I would work on. I have a video. I was making time-lapse videos of the commissions that I make, and I have a video of this one here if you want to see. It's on the YouTube. After this, I would go in, fix up the sky, make sure you can kind of see a bit of the tint coming through above those ridges. Just clean it up, put more detail in the walls back there, and from back to front, we'll work on the trees next, the fountain, the grass, and then lastly, those foreground elements, which you see I didn't even do anything yet with, because they're going to be so dark. That tree is going to be so dark, you don't really need to do it. So, and again, stick around to the end if you would like to see this piece completed. We'll go through all the completed pieces at the end, and this will certainly be one of them. Okay, so there's the block-in and then the detail, and that's pretty much the whole process of what I do to create the piece. I'm going to take a quick tea sip. Cheers. We're doing good. We don't need the Ricola just yet, hopefully. I'm hoping. Okay, so the next part of what I do to create the piece is a really interesting and important thing, I think. And that is, how do I decide on what to put my time and energy into? Because something that I think all artists learn, or painters, or illustrators, whatever, is that you learn that not every scene is interesting, and all good compositions share certain elements. And those things can be anything from like a focal point, or depth, colors, contrast, lining things up in a particular way. I'll talk about this I have an example to show you all of this. You want things to be lined up kind of on the thirds, both vertically and horizontally. And it's something very interesting to me. Like, I don't know how to explain it, and I don't think you need me to explain it, because we're all human. We see the same things. If you see a painting with something like a tree dead center, there's something about that that's not inviting. I think it has something to do with the symmetry of it, right? If you push that over to the third and maybe put something else, another like distant focal point, it tends to create this flow, and it creates more immersion for you. It almost feels like you can go into the painting. If something's dead center, it kind of just like blocks you or something. Excuse me. But that's one of those ideas, one of those elements that make it interesting. So it's neat to be presented with an idea for a commission or a piece, and get to alter things. You can change things around. That's what's so neat about it. The crazy thing about painting for me is you can literally paint anything. If you can imagine it, you can paint it. And that's a really, really powerful and cool thing. So yeah, if you see a scene, I don't like where that tree is, let's move it over. There's an example in the gallery. Don't remind me, I'll remember. I did an Ease 2 Chronicles painting. And if you know that game, there's a tower called the Darm Tower. Another commission over the summer, and the customer sent me a shot where the tower was a little too close to center, and it just wasn't working. So I told him, is it cool if we move the tower over? He said, sure, go for it. And I'll show you in a minute what that scene looks like. And had it been closer to the center, it just wouldn't have flowed as well, because you got it over to the right, and on the left, it's sort of balanced out with these beautiful colors in the sky. And like I said, I'll show you that in a sec. Oh, Hungry's putting the links in. Thank you so much. So yes, and specific relativity to the gamescapes, the other thing I want to think about is, can I make this interesting? Like I said, if someone wants me to paint a screenshot, I'll do it. I have no problem with that. But I also want to see if I can kind of reimagine it a little bit in a way. And also, if someone wants like a modern game, say someone comes to me and says, I want a landscape from Dark Souls or Shadow of the Colossus, or some game that's already gorgeous visually, that's totally fine. If they want that hanging on their wall, I'd love to do it. But for me, I've always said that the 8-bit era is like the sweet spot for this kind of thing, because at that point you knew what things were. If you look at Super Mario Brothers, you know that's a cloud, you know that's a bush, and that's a flagpole. But for me to then get to embellish on those things and make them look more realistic, that's what it's all about for me. That's super fun. So my example for this, let's go back to our aids, is the piece I did for Shovel Knight. So when I first played Shovel Knight, I guess it's over a year ago now, and pretty early on into the game, I saw the tower kind of looming off on the end, at the the background, and I was like, that is such a cool tower. I love that it had nods to Castlevania, but it also had nods to things that actually drew me back to my childhood, drawing in those sketchbooks of these weird, kind of weirdly shaped architectural structures. Loved it. I was like, I'm totally going to make a painting of that, no question. But then a couple minutes later, you get to the campfire scene, and I'm like, this is so cool too. Look at the colors here. Look at I guess it's the dawn, that's the colors in the sky, the fire. Anytime you can paint like fire with a glow of fire around different objects, reflecting light off of it, that's super fun too. So this is the thing I was just talking about. You can do anything you want. I was like, well, let's do a combination, because this is the world that the game exists in. So why wouldn't it look like this? Let's combine the two elements. So that's what we did. It also has, so let's talk about the different elements I was just talking about. The focal point, you have your campfire as the focal point, and it's in the foreground on the left, and you'll see it's sort of lined up on that kind of third area. You'll notice there's nothing important right in the middle of it, and neither, you know, vertical or horizontally. The fire is on the left. You've got the shovel there, the elements that are sort of keying you into what the game is from, if it's a GameScape, of course. You got the log there that your dude is sitting on, and notice again there's no character, because I want you to feel that you're being drawn into this scene. And now you have the tower in the back, which is again on the third, so it creates the flow. It's like an immersive thing. You feel like you're going to go back along that path through the fog up to the tower, and you'll even notice that the horizon is also below where the halfway mark would be. So all of these things just kind of, it's almost like a formula. It almost feels not so creative sometimes, but it just works. Like there's no real, like you could find examples of, you know, I've seen examples of old masters and things like that where things are in the middle and they work because they're, I don't know, they're gorgeous. Would they be a little bit better, maybe shifted around? Yeah, maybe, but generally speaking, these are the things that I just think about and I have to kind of follow. And also, just as a last thing to say about this, and it also has this element, this example of, even though it's kind of a more modern game, it has that throwback look. It has that 8-bit kind of look. So that's also fun to make a campfire and a shovel look as if we were looking at it in our lives and in our real world, and not in an 8-bit looking throwback game, right? So there we go. Yeah, I think that's going to wrap that section up, and I think we're going to be going into the gallery here again. More tea. Starting to sound a little gravelly, but I'm hanging in there. This is just fine. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this. I was hoping that my cat might come say hi, but I think she's balled up somewhere. So sorry to say, she won't be coming by. Okay, so that's that. So now, folks, let's get into the gallery. Let me check in real quick. It's a neat comparison. The old masters used the triangle forms and approach. You were using different angles and perspectives. It brings unique interest to the pieces. It's kind of like part of the same family of ideas, right? That's just like my opinion, man. It's all good. So now let's go through a quick gallery. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. Tallulah. Yeah, I think she has this chair. There's a chair that I use when it's back at the piano, and it's like one of those chairs that has like the 5 legs at the bottom. For some reason, she loves curling up in between the wedges of those legs and like resting her head on the leg. That's like her favorite place to be. She's such a weirdo. But anyway, so let's go through a gallery. Let's go back through the pics. A little bit of memory lane, I guess, for me. So here, folks, the first commission that I ever got. So, of course, this one's very special. This is Kakariko Village from Ocarina of Time. And this is the piece for me. Again, I could nitpick it, whatever. But I was learning grass, which is, when I look at this, I was learning how to make grass, which is pretty exciting. But really the most exciting thing about this piece, or the story to it, was this was the first commission. This is what kind of showed me, okay, I think I might be able to do this. People will pay me to make art for them, and that was super exciting. So that was is probably around the time right after I had made the Castlevania Ninja Gaiden pieces, and I was putting it out on Instagram and social media in general. So I got that first bite. This was my first bite, so that was really exciting. The second one, which is the second commission, and if you guys come by on Saturday nights for my painting streams, you'll probably recognize this because it's the welcome screen for those streams. This is Maniac Mansion, another commission that happened pretty quickly. I was like, oh my crap, this is awesome. Like, really nice guy. I think he's in California. Loves Maniac Mansion. And again, this was a piece where it's from, I don't know if it's the end. I've never gotten through the game. I only tried it once one night years ago. But I know that there's a shot where there's I think there's like a meteor or something. I don't know. No spoilers. I haven't played it yet. Shh. Where I wanted to do a little bit something different. And the interesting thing about this one, I felt, well, first of all, I have to say, the sky was really challenging. Working with acrylic paints and getting it to blend is a serious challenge. I must have gone over the sky at least 5 times. It dries very quickly, and to get a good blend of colors is super tricky. Um, and I remember this was actually every time I see this piece, I think of something called acrylic retarder, and it's like it's like a little gel that you can use in conjunction with your acrylics. It slows down the drying time. It almost makes it act a little bit more like oils, and that's what I finally used to get more of this. And you can kind of still see shades of it, but again, I'm such a perfectionist. I was like, it has to look exactly like the sky, but there should still be art in it too. You should see brush strokes. That's the constant battle in my head of like perfectionism and art, right? And human art. There should be brush strokes. When I go to a museum or I see a piece really up close, I love seeing those little brush strokes because it connects you with the humanity of it. A human made this, and we're not perfect, and there are brush strokes, and that's cool. That's fine. The other thing it makes me think of is I had blocked this piece in with just the land kind of going down like that. In the final shot, you can see it almost looks like there's like from the start, there's like a drop off to the right, just to the right of the fence. I didn't plan that at all. Like, I didn't really know what I was going to do. It's probably just going to be like a hill going straight through. But something in there, it's like what Bob Ross would call the happy accident. Something about the way I blocked it in, the colors were a little darker in there, and it just made me see like, oh, what if I make it like it totally drops off? It's a little more scary that way. And that's how that came to be, completely unplanned. And it's another thing I love about painting. It happens a lot when you block in. When you just get up there and sloppily put it in there and don't think too much, you'll look at something and be like, that looks like a tree over there. Let's capitalize on that. Let's work on that. And it'll turn into things that you were not planning at all, but that really work. It's such a cool thing. So that's the thing I think of for this piece. And the stars. I should mention the stars too. This was the first piece I used the little flick technique for the stars. So maybe I still have it. I made a piece of paper and I cut out basically the silhouette of the hill with the mansion and the tree and all the way down so that the paint wouldn't get on those places. And you take a stiff brush with some white paint and a little bit of water and you flick it and you get the stars like that. It's the same thing in the Super Mario Brothers 2 piece too. If you notice, there's stars like up in the subcon area. Oh, thanks, Chris. I don't think it looks airbrushed, but I appreciate it. Thank you. And I should say too, all of these shots that you're seeing, I've touched these up too. Like, photographing paintings is super tricky. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing with it. The darker the pieces, the trickier it is. So I do mess with the colors and stuff like that. I don't want you thinking like this is what it exactly looks like on the wall, but it is the piece, but it is a little touched up. Okay, next piece. Final Fantasy. Oh my god. So when I started that whole idea of screenshotty, when the whole idea was like trying to drum up interest in what I was doing, I was thinking, I was even talking to like my game friends. I was like, what are some really iconic scenes that you can think of? Because I wanted to just build up the portfolio of stuff that people would definitely connect with. And this was one that I had in my head almost instantly. I said, that is one of the most iconic shots in games in general. And at first, I didn't put any clouds. It was just the sky and the castle and everything else. And I thought it was done, and I actually had the idea of maybe putting, if in the game there's like a dialogue box, I thought to maybe put a dialogue box and write something in it, and I'm so glad I didn't do that, but I was so scared because I liked how it came out generally at the time. I was pretty proud of it, and I was so scared to put clouds because I'm going to ruin this. I'm like, what am I doing? But I'm glad I did it. There's this one guy on YouTube who, I think his name is Mural Joe. He's a really good painter. And he has a bunch of tutorials on clouds. So I love clouds. I love trees. I love nature. But clouds in particular to me are like these incredibly beautiful, majestic things, right? And I really wanted some big, epic looking clouds for this. So I studied what he was doing, and I kind of just, what can you do? I had to just dive in and go for it. And this is another video you can watch on YouTube. You can see like me putting in the clouds. I think I actually made a video like, I did this one and I thought it was done, but it's not done. I need to, because there's way too much space in the top. I had to put something. So this was like my first, I felt, successful cloud adventure in what I was doing. Okay, next. Okay, so here we go. I showed you the Fazanadu shot earlier on. If you haven't seen, this is the final shot of it. Final, of course, because the things that I want to add to this still, I still want to add a little bit of highlight to the left side of the foliage of the tree because I'm crazy. I'm not crazy about the moon either, but anyway, this is Fazanadu. And again, speaking of clouds, I love these very dramatic, horizontal, like the clouds on the horizon. So I took a little artistic license there and I threw those in. But again, when I look at this, I think about what I was learning at the time with depth, with using colors to create depth. If you look at the bark of the tree, there's a lot of blue in it. And that was an eye-opener for me too, because it was really cool to experiment with those colors and be like, wow. It really made me think about paint as just, it's like an illusion. It's just like a trick. When you see, if you've ever like climbed a mountain or something and you look out at the horizon and you see things, you see like the layers of mountains going away and away, they're just less and less like saturated. They're getting filtered through, through the atmosphere or whatever. But the color that you're seeing is just a color, and you can recreate that color with paint. It's just a trick. So again, it just made me feel like, wow, you can paint anything that you see. It's really, really, really sweet. So yeah, so there's Fazanadu. Okay. So at this point, I was going to talk about two pieces. Then here's Super Mario Brothers. So, I have done 2 conventions in person so far. The first one was a convention that I actually attended a couple times just with some friends as just like a con goer. And it was coming up again, so they always send you an email like, hey, it's, coming up again. Give us more money and come to our event. But in the email it said like, booths available. And I knew that I was starting to do this, and I had started to make prints, and I was like, this is like a good opportunity. I have to do this. So I did it. I got a booth. And the next 2 pieces I made in preparation for the convention because I still felt like I needed to have those kind of like very popular heavy hitter scenes. I needed a Super Mario Brothers, and I needed a Mega Man one, which is the next one. So again, this was just my take on it. The end of the level where there's a staircase. It's kind of hard to, get your head around like, why is there a staircase there? If we're going to make this more a natural kind of look, well, maybe it's just like kind of rocky stairs that you jump up and you jump across a chasm and you hit a flagpole. It's a weird game, but this is what I did with it. And the next one is another iconic shot at the end of Mega Man 2. Spoilers, if you've not finished the game, you see a helmet. Tea break. Cheers, guys. Okay, Norsk. You have such a hard time using color in this way. I'd like to hear more about that. If you put a question in the Q&A, let's talk about that after, because I want to know what you mean exactly. So yeah, here's Mega Man 2. When I look at it, I really liked the helmet. I thought the helmet came out cool. My greens are atrocious, but again, I'm not going to nitpick my old work, but this was another one that I just wanted to have as a print to sell to people who love Mega Man, and people love Mega Man, so I thought this was a smart move. Next, another commission. This is one that maybe not a lot of people have seen. I don't have prints of this one because it's from Fallout. And this is a really funny one because the customer said he lives in Myrtle Beach. And he was like, I want you to create a scene of my hometown and incorporate Fallout. I've never played Fallout. I don't really know anything about it aside from it's sort of dystopian, right? Like you wear gas masks. I don't know. There are explosions apparently. And he was like, yeah, I want my hometown to be being destroyed by a huge mushroom cloud. And I thought to have the helmet in there. And I was like, okay, well, it's on the beach. Maybe we could do like the helmet in the water and the water crashing into it. And again, you see the thirds coming into play here too. You have your focal point, which is obviously the mask. It's the closest thing, it's the most detailed thing. That's the thing that your eye is going to be drawn to. But it also has that flow of, okay, there's something else back there, this huge mushroom cloud of devastation. And there's a Ferris wheel, and there's a pier, and, you know, there's an upside-down museum or something. I've never been to Myrtle Beach, but apparently that's what there is there. So it was a funny piece to work on. I enjoyed it. It was neat. I really liked the details, working on the details of the mask. It was cool. Okay. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. It's just a painting. Okay, next. Legend of Zelda. Oh, okay. So this was a commission actually for, this was like a huge step for me because it was a commission for NES Complex. Not to throw names around, but if you know NES Complex, very nice guy, very successful YouTube channel about retro stuff, very great content. As it turns out, a very nice guy. I think he just maybe saw my stuff on Twitter or something. We just got to talking and he wanted a piece. So this is what I made for him. He wanted, again, another kind of combo idea. He loved Zelda, obviously. He wanted to incorporate the original artwork from the original Zelda. So if you see the bottom left-hand corner of this, you see that sort of kind of like bit of land that kind of juts out there, which is where the old Link would have been sitting with a sword looking out at Death Mountain, right? And the rest of the scene is exactly from that. But he also wanted to incorporate Breath of the Wild. So that's why we put in this right side of the cliff with, I guess, adult Link hanging off the edge. And this is one example of the whole character thing. This is what he wanted, so of course I was going to make the Link character as best I could. This is another video on the channel if you want to see. You can see like the details of this shield on his back. It's a little hard to see there, but so this was, yeah, that was a big step because he helped me out a lot with some support and getting eyes on my work, which is great. Okay, so earlier in the panel we saw the tinted piece of Ghosts and Goblins. If you would like, I'll give you a quick refresher of that actually. There we go. So there's our Ghosts and Goblins piece. Link's boots. You love his boots. Here's the Ghosts and Goblins piece. I'm just gonna, you know, reminding you of what it looks like. So then, if we come back, and here's the final piece here. So this one, I have to admit, I really kind of love this one. I'm not patting myself on the back talking about like the painting, you know, the skill itself. I really like this scene. We did this on stream, excuse me. And I love Ghosts and Goblins. It's such a stupid game. I love it. It's so hard. But I wanted to do something different with it because Ghosts and Goblins, you think scary, zombies, nighttime, Satan, whatever. I wanted to not have it be at night. I want it to be like, if this world really exists, then it exists in the morning just as much as it does at night. Why not do something different? Why not show, you know, this could be interpreted like it's the morning after that you've won and you're walking away from the castle, which is tucked behind the mountains back there on the right, and you're walking and looking back and saying, ah, okay, we did it. Me and my girlfriend are walking back and we're all happy and hunky-dory, and that's it. Of course, you got the sun and the tree kind of with that symmetry again. And also, there's something subtle in this too, if you know the game. The first level, so in games in general, I love the flow of games. I love when levels connect, or they make some sort of reference to each other, like at the end of one level, and then you start the next level, and there's still some sort of like visual keys to show that it's still part of the same world. Excuse me. So I really wanted to make you start off in a graveyard. It's a very iconic scene where you and your girlfriend are having a picnic in a graveyard. Okay. Whatever floats your boat. But then you start and you go down through the graveyard, and then you cross a little river and you go into the woods where all the little burrito ghosts are, right? So that's why I wanted to put the woods down at the base of those mountains. Those represent that part of level 1. And then you can think about like, oh, okay, well that horrible ghost town, which is the second level, is kind of nestled down there in the valley. Sooner or later at the end of that level, you go under into the mountain, into like the bottom of the mountain, and then you come out and the castle's up there. So I really liked that whole, the chance to sort of visually represent that in a painting. And sure, most people aren't even gonna think about that, but I think about it, and it makes me happy. That's it. So that's Ghosts and Goblins. All right, I always thought they were playing Parcheesi at the picnic. Maybe they were. A picnic with no pants. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And yeah, and yeah, I should say, do you see how it kind of glows? It really helps to have that tint of that color in the back, especially for a sky like this. It really does help. And also in the grasses, you see there's almost like a little bit of dead grass color. There's that sienna color in those grasses, yellows and oranges. It totally helps just with that overall glow and like the glow of the snow off the mountain from the sun. Totally. Okay, next piece. Cemeteries are so common in games. Yeah, I mean, games kind of want to scare you, right? So what better situation than to throw the player into a cemetery? Though I think cemeteries are actually quite beautiful. I don't think they're so scary. There's something about a really old cemetery I think is really cool. Dragon Warrior, another stream piece. This one, all I can think about is the slime, because I knew I wanted to make this piece. If you've played the game, I had this game as a kid, and I always loved the look of the little battle scene that comes up. And it looks so blocky. I mean, it's not the most advanced game. It's very blocky. But again, you see, like I was talking about before, you see there's a cloud, you see there's like kind of a mountain or a hill or something like that. So I always wanted to embellish on that. Because it's the perfect, it's that sweet spot I was talking about of the 8-bit thing. And starting it out, I wasn't sure if I was going to do the slime. But as we got into it more and more, I thought, if there's like, if you look at it without the slime, it's kind of like, well, what's the focus of this shot? And this is a rare, excuse me, this is a rare example of, yeah, that slime is dead in the center of the shot. But it kind of pays a little homage to the shot in the game too, because that's right in the center too. I'm not saying that this is the greatest composition, but I think it's interesting. I think it's got that focus is really interesting to create a slime thing that's realistic. And I went through a lot of different sketches actually of that slime. How am I going to make this slime look real? It looks too cute in the game. I wanted it to be a little scary, a little sinister, a little disgusting. So essentially we made like a little pile of red poop with glistening reflections off of it and a distasteful face on him. Yeah, making a weird face. The great slime debate. Exactly. Yeah, totally. My mom used to take us on picnics in cemeteries when I was a kid. They're peaceful as long as you leave before the zombies awake. Totally. Yeah. C-Small, you might have done this too. I don't know why this feels like a Northeast thing to me. I don't know why, but we used to go on field trips. We had this cemetery. It actually was like where my house was. It was one street and then one street, and there it still is, this very, very old cemetery with graves dating back to like 1700 stuff, 1800s. We used to go on field trips to do the sketchings. Did you guys ever do that? You would put like a piece of wax paper against the gravestone, take charcoal, and do sketchings of them. And that was like, it was really neat to do that with kids. I mean, we were probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. It's kind of a neat way to be like, hey, this isn't so scary. Like, death is a part of life. Not that they really like talked to us like that when we were on the field trips, but I look back at those things and I think it definitely made an impression on me because, yeah, I've always loved the old gates around an old cemetery. I think there's a lot of beauty in that. Okay, next, Deku Tree. Definitely, we did rubbings of old graves. Yeah, super cool. It's 2/3 down from the top. That's true. The slime is definitely not, and you don't want it dead center. Totally. Excuse me. So the second time I did the convention, I think it was actually my sister that suggested this. I painted this live because one big reason is conventions are boring. If you're a vendor, conventions can be really boring. I mean, it's awesome to kind of interact with the people that are coming to see your stuff, but a lot of the times it's really just like kind of waiting around and just not doing much. So I painted something to pass the time, excuse me, and I thought it'd be a good idea. Let's raffle it off at the end. So this is the piece that I made for that. I wanted something pretty universally enjoyed, Zelda. This is the Deku tree with Navi, right? That's the name. I've only played up till Link to the Past, so I don't know. And that's really about it. This was just a friendly little piece that kept me company while I sat for 2 days at a convention, and that's it. And a really nice dude won the raffle, and so he got the original piece. And I remember I had just finished the Dragon Warrior piece, and he bought a Dragon Warrior print as well. Very nice guy. So wherever you are out there, thank you. Okay. Used to do that with your grandparents too. Awesome. Okay, next we're going into older territory now. Into some Sierra goodness. This is King's Quest IV. The story behind this, real quick, is I grew up playing this game with my dad, and loved it. Like, it was before NES or anything like that, so I had never seen anything so immersive, and so I think that game had a ton to do with me eventually ending up doing this kind of thing, because there were so many cool scenes in that game, and it was beautifully rendered and it looked great. A lot of fantasy and everything, and this is one screen. So actually, fast forward, I figured out how to stream King's Quest 4 or any game like that, and I think we finished it when I was a kid, my dad and I, but I had like very fuzzy memories of it. So getting to stream it as an adult and play through it again, I was like out of my mind. I was so excited. And the moment where the first stream I came to the scene, I was like, oh my god, I have to paint this. This is no question, I had to paint this. So we did. This is another stream one too. Nice textures in the trees, that was fun. Nice foreground tree on the left hand side. I would not have made the water so blue if I'm going to nitpick. Water reflects what's above it. There's no sky in the middle of that pond or that stream, but let's not nitpick. It was a fun piece. We had a ball with it. And we're going to stay in the Sierra universe because the next piece is from King's Quest V, which was another commission I did recently for a very good friend. And this scene, this painting makes me think of, this was the first time I got to experiment with this idea of like a misty background. So there's an evil forest in this part, and there's, of course, the main thing is the willow tree that's crying, and there's a little puddle around her because of her tears, and she's lost her lover. Very sad stuff. But the background was something that I had actually seen. There's another YouTube artist that I tend to watch. He does that a lot. He uses very soft colors off in the background, and just slightly darker color than that same hue for the trees and things like that. And it really helps to create this beautiful distant separation, like a separation from the background to the foreground. So I really, like, right away I knew, because the haunted forest is a big part of this scene, so I knew I wanted to experiment with that, like that. So, and then you can see, like, the trees on the right-hand side, they're much darker. Another general rule, the darker something is, the closer it's going to come to you. The more desaturated and weak the color is, it's going to push it back. So it's really cool when you can do that contrast next to each other and create that illusion that there's depth there. And the tree itself, I was a little nervous to do it because, again, like I said, it's kind of an animate object with, it's like a person, but it's also a tree. So I didn't want to ignore the rules of the human body, but I also felt a little more comfortable being able to bend those rules a little bit because it's a tree, and I can make it barky, and I can make it kind of, whatever. So yeah, I really liked working on this one. It's very fun. Coolness of the background versus exactly, yep, that's totally it. And also Norsk, just the color wheel too. A lot of people know about the color wheel, how it basically kind of works. Opposites of the color wheel are going to have a nice contrast. So if the background's kind of a bluish purplyish, I knew I wanted like a yellowish greenish up front. Those things are going to create a nice contrast. A contrast is another element we talked about before, about one of those things that makes a good painting interesting to look at. Moving on, here we go. We have Skull Castle, which is, I don't really tend to make pieces from the same game, but this is one example of that. Um, I had what's the word, participated in a tournament over the summer, just a fun tournament on Twitch for Mega Man 2, and I was just playing through it, practicing it, and then I came to the part where it's the Wily's Castle part, and I was like, man, that would be a fun one to do, and I wasn't sure which next piece I was going to do for the streams, so we decided to do this. This was another stream piece, like I just said. It's Skull Castle, so I didn't want it to just, again, be the screenshot. I wanted to kind of embellish on the forest before it, and I wanted to make it look a little like it's dying a little bit. The trees aren't looking so healthy, maybe because the radiating evil coming out of Dr. Wily's castle. Who knows? Little path leading up to it. And I remember I had a little trouble with the sky. I made the sky way too busy at first, so I made just sort of fluffy little passing clouds. I thought that worked better. Yeah, and that's really all I have to say about this one. I will say that Feral the Feral likes to refer to this as the Boner Palace. You don't have to if you're uncomfortable with that. I understand. Next piece, Ys. Okay, so here's what we were talking about before. Another commission from Ys 2 Chronicles. This is the Dharm Tower that I referenced before. So again, I had to move the tower over a little bit because it was way too much in the center. So as you can see, you have the tower on the right, but you have that glow coming from the left, and it just kind of, you know, casts this beautiful light against everything. The tower, that right-hand side of the cliffs over there and the trees. So it was nice to have the tower just a little bit more to the right, just almost like to be basking in that glow, and of course just to pay attention to that rule to make it more pleasing to the eye. The moons are always tricky. I totally use, like, I'm not going to tell you I freehand circles. I don't. I'll cut out, honestly, I'll take like a, you know, those little spice things of cinnamon? They're like little guys. I'll take those and I'll trace that on a piece of paper. I'll cut that out and I'll make little dots around it, and then I'll be able to connect the dots, literally, to do those. And there's actually another example of that sort of thing coming up too. Mega Man 2 deserves 2 paintings. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay. Guys, having fun? We're doing good? We're almost done. We're almost to Q&A. Goodbye, Ys. Okay. Another commission. Final Fantasy VI. This one was exciting, but also I was scared because, not scared, but I was a little nervous to do this one because it's got statues. And the statues have, like, the woman statue in the middle, that is as close to I've ever come to painting a human body. So I was like, can I pull this off? And I think I used a guide too. I think I did something similar by sketching it out first and putting it on there. And there is a lot, I mean, painting is very forgiving. If you're missing the outline, you can totally go in with a darker color. The only time you can really get into trouble if you paint like black over something and you need to cover that up completely, that's going to take a lot of coats. So as long as you keep that in mind, you're pretty much okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the moons, they were like that in the shot, and I couldn't wait to do that. Just a little subtlety. I talked to the customer about this one, and we kind of talked about the scene when it happens in the game. I'm sure a lot of you have played through Final Fantasy VI. And so I just started looking at screenshots because I wasn't sure what to do with the sky in this one. I was just going to do a plain horizon sky from almost looking like when you're flying in a plane and you can see kind of the horizon of the earth and you can see like that white kind of strip of the light, and then it gets darker as it goes up. That's originally what I had done. But then I saw the screenshot of, because I would just look up Final Fantasy VI floating continent, I think it's called. And there's this shot after all of this happens where the sky turns this reddish, brownish, dead kind of color. And I was like, that would be really cool to incorporate into this. And I ran it by him and he said, yep, love it, awesome. So that's why this sky looks like it looks. And I wanted to kind of have it kind of billow out, kind of get bigger as it came out. And kind of, again, the thirds, you can see the kind of those red clouds, they're starting sort of on that third and kind of flowing outwards that way. So that's why that's why the sky is that color. The rest was really all put into the floating continent itself and the statues. And we had talked about making a hole sort of underneath this platform. Like if you looked pretty much in the center of the painting on the bottom, you can see the clouds underneath it. We knew we wanted to do that. We wanted to have the pieces of the earth or whatever it is falling apart in strands. We just wanted to look like it's, not a very safe place, right? And then, yeah, the paintings, the statues, they took a little time, but, I feel like I did as good as I could do with them, and that was it. So that's Final Fantasy VI. Okay, so now the next one, we talked about Breath of the Wild earlier with the sketch, the paper sketch, the sketch onto the canvas, and then the block-in stage. So now we can see the final shot of Breath of the Wild. So as you can see, the foreground tree is in, and you can see, so after that block-in stage, if you remember what that looked like, I would then go do a little more detail in the sky. That's where I would start. Go to those cliffs in the back, put detail in the cliffs, give them some shadows so you can kind of see how they're the contours. Trees, and then a lot of work went into the actual fountain. And the thing I think I like most about this shot is the glow of those little like sparkles that are in the fountain itself, because it's just like that in the game, and I know I wanted to try to emulate that just by taking a very bright color like a yellow and white color and get rid of most of the paint on the brush and just scrub like a little, almost like an X or a plus and an X or everything, just to kind of make it, coming out from the center. And then in the center, you hit it with a lot of paint, just a little boom, just where the light is generating that glow. So I was happy with that, and I really liked the sun kind of coming through the woods too. It reminded me of, walking through the woods as a kid, like where that light kind of comes through the canopy of the trees, lights up certain areas of the grass right next to where it's very dark. Again, the contrast is very nice. Just a great scene to get to work on. I was super pumped when the customer ordered this piece. I was really excited. Very fun piece. Next, of course, 2 more to go, guys. Chrono Trigger. No spoilers. I'm playing this right now. Don't you say anything about it. I don't know what the scene is about yet, but I know that it's very beloved, and a lot of people connect very deeply with it. So here's another example of the circle of the Eclipse. That, my friends, is a tuna can. That's right. That's the tuna can moon, because I wasn't going to try and eyeball a sphere that had to be that perfect for that shot. This one we had to move around quite a bit too, because in the game, if you see the game shot, the moon is actually just like half shown in the top of the shot, in the middle, and then the tree is there. So I suggested, can we move these things away? Can we move the tree a little bit right, and we'll bring down the whole moon to show it, the whole thing. That will give us an area to work with the glow, and that's how it came together. Don't bop anyone just yet. I think we're okay. Super fun piece to work on. I've really gotten into working on snow. I think snow is an incredibly interesting surface to paint and put shadows on. Really, really fun. If you see behind me, actually, I'm working on a piece. This is a non-gaming piece. That's a big snowscape that I'm totally into right now. Spilling all the secrets. Don't do it. So that's Chrono Trigger. And guys, here's our last piece. Are we ready? Here it is. We're ending up on Zelda 2. This was a piece I actually meant to grab the before piece, but this is a piece that started out as one of the first ones I did. This was actually even before Castlevania, before Ninja Gaiden. I always liked the setting in that game of the Stonehenge stones where you find a heart. So that's all I painted. I just did like a plain ground, put Stonehenge pieces, put the heart, a couple clouds in the sky, and I was like, done. But it kind of sucked. I never really liked it. And not too long ago, because I played it over Christmas, I was reminded that that thing existed. I didn't even think I had it anymore. I thought maybe I'd already painted over it or something, but luckily I didn't. I still had it. And I said, okay, this will be fun to work on the stream, to take what I've got and to, take what I've learned over these years and make it into a different piece. So we added the castle cliff in the background, giving you that depth again, giving you that sort of thing to look off and, you know, have that eye flow. You have the heart, of course, and the like the triptychs, I guess you call them, the stones that are your focal points, some trees, some clouds, textures in the grass. There you go. That's pretty much the formula. So that's the new Zelda 2. That's now in the print shop as well. So guys, there's your gallery. Let me come back here. And that's pretty much it. We're going to go into the Q&A now. I have to see if I can see where the Q&A is. Oh, there it is. Okay. Got a little nervous. All right, so if you got any questions, guys, you have any comments, please plunk them in there for now. If not, I'll just go through what you guys are saying. You can tune a painting, you can't tune a fish. The transformation this undergone is almost night and day. Yeah, I mean, and again, it's just like I was talking about the 4-piece. It's like it shows that learning process, which is so nice, because I didn't really know what I was doing when I first did that thing. I didn't really understand the depth of things like that. So to be able to, like I said, you can fix up anything. Like you can really alter anything that you want. So it's super cool. Okay. So guys, I don't have any Q's and A's. So I think, unless anyone wants to plunk it in now, I think we're going to wrap this up. I would like to say that I think on the left hand of your screen should be something like Vendor Hall. If you're interested in checking out the prints that I've got for sale, you can do that and throw some traffic the Con's way. They've done a great job with the convention. They really organized it beautifully. Oh, now we've got one. Now we've got one. Hang on. What is a scene from a game you'd really love to paint that you haven't yet? Dismiss question. I'm just kidding. It just gives me that option. I will answer this live. I have to type this, I guess. Okay, I'm going to answer this live. There are a lot of ones. Well, I've said that I want to redo something from Legacy of the Wizard. I'd love to do something from a different perspective, but still be of that castle. Maybe something like if you're inside the shop in that tree and you're looking out the window and seeing the castle, maybe something like that. Or even there's another shot when you get the sword, like the big crazy dragon slayer sword. There's like almost like a temple looking area. That could be interesting. And I still had that idea of the entrance to the dungeon too, with the light coming through the door and shining onto a crown. That one's always been swimming around in my head. Aside from that, I still want to do a Metroid piece, but I struggled to figure out how to do it exactly. I started it on stream, if you recall, but it didn't really form. It didn't come to fruition for me for whatever reason. It was the Mother Brain room with a lot of lava and things like that. I still haven't given up on that idea. I'd like to do something like that. So yeah, that's a couple right there that I think I would like to do. Oh, we got 2 more. Okay. Okay, going back to the tree and the mountainous clouds. You include a lot of different colors in the tree bark. Yes, I guess I'm just wondering how you determine what colors to use for an object such as a tree trunk, which we think of as purely brown. I hope that makes sense. It makes total sense. It's a great question. Norsk. So aside from using, generally blues are going to be your best friend when you're trying to create that depth. So what I first did, if you actually look back, if we go back and look, where are you? Facts early. If you look at this, I chose to use like it's like green, I don't know why, but it's like a greenish bluish color as the background for that tree, because I want it's almost similar to that tinting that we talked about. I want that to kind of be like the base color behind what I'm going to put over it. So I would do different types of blues, like a basic mid-tone blue for like just the general shape of the tree. I could then add darker blues to create those shadows. But I think what you're getting at is how do you add in the actual bark color? And the way you do that is you have to learn about like saturation pretty much. Any color has a value. So if you take brown, let's say for a trunk of a tree, we always think of brown as the trunk of a tree. If you take it straight out of the tube and plunk it on there, it's going to be brown. But if that tree is really far away, you have to alter that color. And this is actually where the color wheel can kind of come in. There are certain colors you can use in conjunction with others that will desaturate it. You could use a white to kind of kill that color a little bit. But in that case, I would actually use maybe a little bit of blue with the brown and some white, and maybe a little burnt sienna, and just experiment with those colors. What you really want to just keep in mind is the farther something is away, the less saturated you want it, which really just means the less powerful that color is. And as it comes forward, you want it to be more saturated. You want it to become, like if you go into your phone and you can mess with your photos and like, edit them. If you have that like saturation toggle or slide, you can see when you do really saturated, it's like, whoa, it like makes it so bright. But if you desaturate it, it almost makes it like black and white. You don't want it to be black and white, but you want it to be on the way there. You want it to be color, but you want it to be desaturated. So it's a lot of experimentation. It's just like, for me, my thought process is, what color is that object? That's where you start. And then you think, how do I alter that color to desaturate it? You might add a blue, you might add some white. If it's a green, greens are really tricky. Green and you add red or like that burnt sienna color or something like that, that's gonna desaturate it because they're opposites on that color wheel. And it'll kill that green. It won't make it so vibrant. It'll just make it look way more distant. A good exercise is just look at pictures with objects that are farther and farther and farther away, just like mountains that I was talking about before, and try to match those colors on every different level. You know, you're gonna have like your greens in the trees on that hill that you can see at this point, and then a little farther back they're gonna look more blue, so you add a little more blue, you add a little more white, etc., etc. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that that answers your question. Okay, it's a tough one, but how is it for you speaking to the people who order? Do you mean like how I actually speak to them, or I'll just answer it in any way I can. Generally, well, I'll just run you through like the process. Generally, it's an email. They'll just reach out to me. Hey, I'm thinking about this piece. What can we do with it? So I have to right away sort of give them the guidelines of what I do, because sometimes they'll look for something that I'm just not going to be good at or something like that. Hopefully they've seen my work and they kind of get it, and that's why they're coming to me and that's what they want. So that's great. And they'll usually give me some ideas. Well, they'll give me the game for sure. And if they haven't given me some ideas or even screenshots of ideas of it, I'll ask that from them. I'm actually going to do a Celeste piece soon, which I'm super psyched about. And that's how it worked. The customer said, I've got these 4 or 5 screenshots from the game. I can't decide which one. What do you think? Like, maybe we can combine, maybe we can come up with something together. So that's another step to it too. And once we decide on an idea, that's when I'll do the pencil sketch. I'll sketch something out and I'll say, what do you think of this? Do you want to add anything else? And if they want, sometimes they want to add too much, and I have to say, this is going to be too much. It's going to be too cluttered and too busy. Because I feel like at this point I know what's going to make a good composition and what's going to make it, you know, subtle enough that it's going to work, you know. And then it's just back and forth, and once we decide on the sketch, then we get to work. And if you mean like in any other way, I've never had issues speaking with anyone about a commission. Everything, it's great. People have been extremely respectful, and sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's totally fine. If we talk about pricing, that's a tricky part too. The pricing comes around. Some people, if they're not art enthusiasts or something, they don't know where the price points are sometimes, so that can be a little hairy, but I never take it personal. It's like, okay, you know, we don't have to do it. If you have a change of heart, let me know, or blah blah blah. But so yeah, so I hope that answers that question. Have you ever included animals in your work, such as a horse or a deer and so on? A unicorn? I actually made one piece for a friend, non-gaming. It was for her dad because their dog had passed away, and it was I don't know dog breeds, but it was like a kind of poodle-y kind of looking dog. I'd bring it up. I don't have it for you, but so I have done some things. I feel like I can, like, if I can kind of copy things, if I can see a picture, I can kind of make it work, as long as it's not like, you know, front row center a dog's face or something. I think maybe I could do it, but it's just not my strong suit. But so yeah, I did paint a dog one time, birds in the sky, but those are quick little marks. But I think that's about it. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question as well. Okay, guys, if there are any other questions, let's hear them, or forever hold your peace, because I think I'm going to wrap this up. We never had to use the Ricola. Isn't that wonderful? It's still sitting here in the wrapper. No Tallulah, I'm sorry to say. But I will say thank you so much for being here. This was my first panel I've ever done. This was a blast. I'm so glad it went smoothly, technically. Again, the people that put this convention together are so nice. They help me out every step of the way. I hope you guys hang out and have a great time the rest of the day and enjoy all the other panels that are going on. Oh, is there another one? Is there another one? There's not. Okay, I thought it skipped. Sorry. What is this? Oh, wait a second. Are there more? No. There are more. Are there more? Chris Small. Sorry, I didn't see yours. Have you ever tried expanding your horizons from gamescapes to filmscapes? It would be interesting to see your interpretation of famous natural scenes from films such as On Golden Pond. Christopher Small, I'm so glad that you brought this up. Yes, I have painted a scene or two from a movie, actually just one, from The Princess Bride. It's really not that much. Well, it is kind of a little bit different, I guess, because when you see the movie, it's pretty much life, right? But I love doing it. I'll paint anything. Like, the gamescapes are fun for me because I get to reinterpret and reimagine stuff, but I love painting in general. I love traditional landscapes. If you go to my website, you'll see my other traditional paintings and things I do, and I accept commissions for those as well. So, moviescapes, anything. Yeah, anything that you can see, I would love to paint. That's it. So sorry, C Small, I missed your question earlier. What do you feel you excel at in terms of subject matter, and where do you feel you would like to improve? Wow. You know an artist is asking this question. Gomez Sama is another excellent artist, by the way. You feel like excel in terms of subject matter. Oh, God. I can't say I feel like I excel at anything yet, but where I'm comfortable is, I feel comfortable with the composition of things. I think I have a good eye for that, creating the flow like we've talked about so much. I think I have a good knack for not overdoing things, the whole less is more sort of mentality of it. Where I would like to improve everything. I would like to improve my speed of how I can work just to get more produced. Honestly, every piece that I start feels like a new thing to me, which is great because it's refreshing and fun and it keeps it fresh and it keeps it exciting. But I could improve at everything. Like, I could paint a tree right now that looks like absolute garbage to me, and it's kind of frustrating, but it also just reminds you that it's not easy. It's not easy to just do it, and it shouldn't be. It should always be a labor of love, but the labor is part of it, you know. Thank you for the question. Hope that answered it. Anything else? Okay, I think that's gonna do it, guys, because I need to go moisten my throat and use the bathroom. So, enjoy the hell out of the rest of the convention. Again, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for all the support, not just today, but through the streams and through prints and everything going forward. And is there anything else I wanted to say? Vendor hall, check out the vendor hall, give them some traffic, and if not, tomorrow we're going forward, check out my website. You can click through to my Etsy shop there. You can click through my Patreon as well if you're interested in supporting me that way. Very much appreciated. And that's it. So guys, I'm going to go to the goodbye screen. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Perhaps I'll see you soon in other places on the internet. But goodbye. I'm going to say goodbye now.